Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aditya Putra Pratama. My student number is A1B21105. In this video, I would like to tell you about the strategies to answer listening IELTS test on section 3 and section 4. On the other video, we talk about the strategies to answer section 1 and section 2, and now I will give you the strategies to answer section 3 and 4. Well, first thing, I want to talk about what is section 3 and 4. Well, section 3 is about discussion between two to four speakers on a topic related to academic needs. This means that you listen to up for people talking to each other about an assignment for a course, an academic subject in a seminar or else. This focus is on listening for specific factual information, attitudes, and speaker opinions. On section 4, there are lecture or talks by one speaker on an academic or study related topic. This means that you listen to a person giving a lecture or a talk. This focus is on listening for main ideas, for specific factual information, and attitude and speaker opinion. Well, let's see about the example. Now I will give you the example of section 3 and section 4. So enjoy and try to answer the question and listen carefully. This is the example of section 3.
We thought we'd use 3 criteria: how attractive each website is, how user-friendly it is, and how closely it targets its potential customers. Do you think that's okay?
Sounds fine, but I'd look at the criteria in a different order if I were you. Because really you've got to look at attractiveness and user-friendliness in relation to the people the website is aiming at. So I'd deal with that criterion first if I were you.
Right.
What about the timing? Have you thought of that? 10 minutes is very short, you know.
Yes, we tried it out.
Several times.
And we've decided to spend 4 minutes comparing the 2 sites, then 3 minutes evaluating them, and leave 3 minutes for questions. That's not really enough, but...
Well, it sounds about right to me. You've got 10 minutes altogether, and you've got to stick to that limit. It's good practice. And at least the audience won't have time to get bored. What visuals are you going to use?
We're going to use PowerPoint and a flip chart as well.
So we can show 2 things at once. For example, we're going to start by showing the home pages of each website, and we're going to put up a list of key features on the flip chart at the same time.
Okay, and it's a joint presentation, so have you decided how you're going to share the work?
Yes. First we thought we'd keep taking it in turns to speak. Sarah would say a bit, then I'd take over, and so on. Then we thought we'd just divide it into 2 equal parts, and do 1 part each. But it was all too complicated. So Sarah's going to do all the talking, and I'm going to manage the visuals, and hope we can coordinate properly.
It's the only way we can fit everything in.
Well, good. You've obviously worked hard and you've been very careful with the details. Only one thing I would say. Make sure that you keep your visuals simple. I mean, if you're showing a list of key features, for example, you should make it as brief as possible. Just use bullet points and simple phrases, even single words. Your audience won't have much reading time. It's a classic mistake with seminar presentations to present so much information that the audience can't process it quickly enough, and they stop listening to what you're saying. Okay?
Yes, right.
The question from the section 3 is 1. On the subject of timing, the tutors say A. The student plan is appropriate, B. The student presentation will be too long, or C. The student can extend the presentation if necessary. Well, the correct answer is A. The student's plan is appropriate. Number 2 question for section 3. Sarah and Jack will share the work by A. Speaking in short turns, B. Doing half their presentation each, or C. Managing different aspects. The correct answer for this question is C. Managing different aspects. And the last question is, the tutor advised Sarah and Jack not to A. Talk too much, B. Show complicated lists, or C. Use a lot of visuals. The correct answer about this question is B. Show complicated lists. Show complicated lists. Okay, the strategies to answer section 3 is 1. Listen to the introduction and example audio properly to be able to recognize different voices well. 2. While focusing on the underlying keywords in the question, it is also important to understand the question because some of the keywords in the option or the complete option itself may be paraphrased in the audio. 3. Using 1 minute to get an overview of the section would help you to familiarize yourself with the question. 4. Remember that while listening to the audio, you have to be quick enough to move your eyes over all the question as well as option so that you are aligned up well with the audio and there's no chance of skipping a question. 5. And lastly, do remember that information in the audio always flows in the same order as the order of question. So you have to be continuously going on by immediately moving to the next question instead of looking back for any skipped question or unsurely marked answer. So there are the strategies to answer section 3. This is the example of section 4.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
In today's lecture, I'm going to continue the theme of animal communication, and I'm going to describe some of the latest research into the largest of all land animals, and that is the elephant, of course. Let me begin by briefly outlining the structure of elephant society. Elephants live in layered societies. The basic family unit is formed of small groups of adult females who are related to each other and their young of both sexes. Now the females remain in their families for life. They're highly social, but male elephants leave their families at about 14 years of age. They travel alone or congregate in small, loose groups with other males, occasionally joining a family on a temporary basis. When males are ready to mate, they wander widely, searching for receptive females. The family unit, on the other hand, often contains 3 generations, and it can remain stable for decades or even centuries. Then, each family associates with between 1 and 5 other families, probably consisting of their more distant relatives. Scientists call these groups of families bond groups, and bond groups belong in turn to even larger groups called clans. So elephants have a complex social structure, and like other social animals, they have to be able to communicate. But what baffled early naturalists was their ability to communicate over long distances. So they set about researching this question. In one experiment, scientists fitted groups of elephants with radio tracking collars, and what they observed about their behavior really intrigued them, because they found that there was some sort of coordination between families. For example, 2 separate family groups might move in parallel to each other miles apart and then change directions simultaneously, either turning or moving towards each other. Now, elephants have a keen sense of smell which they use whenever they can, but smell alone couldn't account for these synchronized movements because the wind often carries odors in the wrong direction. So the scientists concluded that the elephants were using their hearing instead, and attention then turned to the nature of elephant calls. In another experiment, scientists from Cornell University in America went to Etosha National Park in Namibia, and they produced a recording of calls made by a female elephant to potential mates. Then they broadcast it. And they did this from a van which was parked more than half a mile from a waterhole where several bull elephants were drinking. And two of these looked up, spread their ears wide, and then crunched through the bush towards the loudspeakers. As you can imagine, the scientists may have been alarmed at this point, but the elephants marched straight on past them in their van in search of a female elephant. But the striking aspect of this experiment was that when they replayed their recording, neither the two scientists nor the rest of their team, who were filming from a nearby tower, could hear it. And that's because the sounds that they had replayed were below the lower threshold of human hearing. In scientific terminology, the sounds are infrasonic. Elephants can make these extremely low-pitched sounds because although they have a larynx or voice box that is similar to those of all other mammals, it's much larger. But what do the sounds mean? Scientists from Pittsburgh Zoo in the USA have classified certain infrasonic calls based on when these occur and how other elephants react to them. They found, for example, that when individual family members reunite after separation, they greet each other very enthusiastically, and the excitement increases with the length of time that they've been separated. They trumpet and scream and touch each other. They also use a greeting rumble. This starts at a low 18 hertz. Hertz is a measurement of sound pitch. Crests at 25 hertz, which is a level just high enough to be audible to humans, and then falls back to 18 hertz again. In another example, an elephant attempting to locate its family uses the contact call. This call has a relatively quiet, low tone with a strong overtone which is clearly audible to humans. Immediately after contact calling, the elephant will lift and spread its ears and rotate its head as if listening for the response. The contact answer is louder and more abrupt than the greeting call, and it trails off at the end. Contact calls and answers can last for hours until the elephant successfully rejoins her family. A third type of call seems to represent a summons to move on. At the end of a meal, one member of a family moves to the edge of the group, typically lifts one leg and flaps her ears. At the same time, she emits a "let's go" rumble, which arouses the family and they start to move on. Finally, mating activity is associated with yet another group of calls. So our understanding of elephant communication has increased considerably in recent years. However, even with the use of radio tracking collars, it's technically difficult to document the functions of long-range communication. So although scientists are aware that elephants may know the whereabouts and possibly the activities of other elephants that are several miles away, there may be a lot of subtle long-range interactions which are still not evident.
Okay, this is the question for section 4. Number 1. Which elephants stay together all their life? The correct answer is adult female. Number 2. What are elephant family group known as? The correct answer is bond groups. Number 3. When scientists track group of elephants, which feature of behavior did they notice? The correct answer is coordination between families. Number 4. Which sense do elephants probably use to communicate over long distance? The correct answer is hearing, by hearing. Number 5 and last is, what did American scientists do with a recording of elephant calls? The correct answer is broadcast it. This is the strategies to answering section 4. First, the information is in the short note form, but you will hear more detailed explanation in the audio. So be careful to identify the relevant information from the audio as per the keyword in the question and the expected answer in the blank. 2. Speaker in the audio would also be talking continuously in the order of the question, so you should concentrate a lot to avoid skipping the audio. Do not look at your previous attempts to check if you have solved the question correctly or if you have skipped any question before. Last, pay close attention to the words that are closer to the blanks, especially prepositions such as to, for, into, and of, because your answer in the audio would be exactly around them in most of the case. So there are the strategies to answer section 4. Okay, I think that's all that I need to explain about the strategies to answering section 3 and section 4 on listening IELTS test. I hope you guys learn a lot from it. I hope you guys understand. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.